Hello, everyone. It's Jay, and I'm back in the booth in my normal, everyday attire to share with you. Okay, so I might have gotten a little dressed up for this week's sneak peek preview because I've got not just one, but two special announcements. The first is that this week's audiobook release will be Jessie's and my 50th audiobook together. I honestly can't believe it myself. It seems like it was just yesterday that Jessie had listened to a sample of my other audiobook work and had emailed me and asked if I'd be interested in doing a sweet romance audiobook. Honestly, at the time, I had no idea what sweet romance was. And now I can hardly imagine doing anything else. Even if you set aside Jessie's incredible talent as a writer, it has been a genuine blessing for me to work with such a wonderful person and amazing human being. I know I am extremely fortunate, and I try to repay that every single time I step in front of this microphone. Now, we both know that none of this would be possible without you, our amazing readers and listeners. Viewers? I know I speak for Jessie when I say that we are both so grateful for all the warm and wonderful support from all of you. Now, speaking of you wonderful people, Jessie and I both love hearing from you, and today's second announcement is at least partly in response to that. Practically since we started working together, we've been asked about the possibility of updating and refreshing one audiobook series in particular more than any other. The time has finally come to make that happen. This week, I hope you can find some time to say hello again to the Baxter Boys. That's right, this week's new release on Say with Jay is Always With You, the first book in the Baxter Boys series. This week's sneak peek is from the opening chapter of Always With You, and what an opening scene it is. Always With You is the story of Torque Baxter and Cassidy Kimball, and it's the story of finding love in sacrifice. I hope you enjoy this little sample, and you'll come back this Friday to hear the full release of Always With You here on Say with Jay. Cassidy Kimball stood on the cement sidewalk and faced the red brick Pennsylvania State Penitentiary building. Hot July sunlight glinted off the razor wire that looped in circles at the top and beside the chain-link fence. Off to the right, the circular guardhouse, with its tinted windows, glared down at the parched, brown, and empty exercise yard. Her stomach twisted like mangled metal in a car accident. It could have been her on the inside. Not here, of course, but somewhere. She glanced at her watch before dragging her clammy hands down her skirt. Please, God, don't let my makeup melt before he walks out. A simple request. She shouldn't care what her makeup looked like, although right now it felt like much-needed armor. Plus, she'd learned the hard way to be thankful for little things. And big things, like not serving the 10-year prison sentence for vehicular homicide that should have been hers after she T-boned a car with Torque Baxter's pickup when she was 19. Nope, she didn't serve it, because Torque had served it for her. Hot and turbulent doubt swirled in her stomach. Would he see what she had become and think his sacrifice had been worth it? Part of her wanted to announce her sacrifice to him, to tell him of her charity work and the people she helped. That he had played the gallant knight in shining armor to her cowardly lion, but that it had not been in vain. Part of her wanted him to see it for himself. All of her craved his approval, or maybe just his forgiveness. Swallowing the nerves that clenched her throat, Cassidy twisted the delicate linked gold of her wristwatch. Any minute now. Would she still recognize him? Of course she would. The question was, would he recognize all that she had done as a tiny down payment on the huge debt she owed him? She reached the same conclusion she had every day for the last 10 years. There was nothing she could do to pay back her monstrous obligation. There was no way to atone for the cowardice that she had shown. How could she have been so yellow? When he'd seen the passengers in the other car, when he'd known what the consequences were going to be, he'd never wavered. His brown eyes had been steady and level as he said, "Get out of here and don't look back. You don't know anything about this." She hadn't understood at first what he was going to do. Still shaken from the accident, she'd not really been thinking straight. But she hadn't needed her brain to be fully functioning to know that she was in deep trouble. She'd already been fighting the urge to run. His command had prompted her to do what she subconsciously wanted to. Hurry, before anyone comes. Then he hadn't accepted her calls, hadn't graced her visits with his presence, hadn't used the money she deposited in his account. Her letters returned unopened, and her emails disappeared into the prison of cyberspace. She didn't know, couldn't know, what he thought or felt. She assumed he hated her. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple. Her watch chain snapped under her shaking fingers. She shoved the broken links into her clutch. Her hand stilled as the prison door opened, the jaws of a monster spitting out its prey. Prey she had fed it. A man, tall and straight, strode out into the sunlight. Her eyes devoured him. Same casual arrogance dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. Same confident walk with only a slight limp. The limp was her fault too. With his slim build, Torque would never be bulky, but she could see the t-shirt that probably fit him when he first walked into this building as an 18-year-old, now stretched tight over shoulders that had widened and filled out. Cassidy bit her lip and lifted her chin, taking a deep breath to calm the cramping of her stomach and disguise the curl of heat that came to life in her chest. Torque had always had that effect on her. She pushed the feeling aside and channeled her inner upper-crust snob, the only defense that had ever come close to working against the elemental pull that Torque exerted on her. The last words that man had said to her were, "Shut up, Cassidy." Now, she intended to get one question answered. Then, she had to figure out how to pay him back. What did 10 years of a man's life cost? Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.